If you want your concealer to look natural, hydrated, not cakey and dry, I'm gonna show you every concealer technique I have. Especially as we mature in age, it gets harder and harder to get your concealer to look youthful, hydrated, but it's not impossible. You just need the right steps. The very first and most important step is going to be well-hydrated skin. It doesn't matter what skin type you are, dry, oily, you cannot skip this step. This is my go-to for hydrating my under eyes. This is the 7. It's suitable for all skin types, and it just melts into your skin. I put this all over too, but right now I'm focusing on the under eyes. So I really go for it with the hydration. I'm really generous about how much I apply. If you're not taking the steps to do proper skincare before you put your makeup on, you're basically setting yourself up to have dry, cracked looking makeup. Now moving on to foundation. One trick that really helps keep your concealer looking very natural and youthful is when you put on your foundation, skip your under eye area altogether. So as I'm buffing this into my skin, I'm completely avoiding this area. A lot of times I see, and I think it's just habit, that foundation goes all the way into the under eyes as well, just because you think you have to cover your whole face. Avoiding adding too many layers in that one area, especially that delicate area, is gonna help you avoid cakey makeup. Now that I've got my foundation on, let's move into concealer. So this first concealer, and one of my favorite, depending on what look you're going for, this might be your only step. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a touch of concealer under my eye, far from my lash line, and a little bit at the outer corner. Now I'm gonna take my concealer brush and start to stipple that out, first in place, and then once it just naturally starts spreading, start tapering it up toward your lash line. So you don't want to get the full amount of product all the way up to your lash line. That's going to look very heavy. You don't want this to look overdone. So do you see how I'm just taking whatever's left and making sure it gets under my lash line, but it's not maximum opacity. You're tapering it up toward the lash line, but you're not getting the full power of the concealer. You want that to stay down here. So like I said, depending on what look you're going for, this might be where you stop with concealer. If you're just going for an everyday, natural, undetectable look, this is where you can stop. But if you wanna go for it and add a little more brightness to the center of your face, you're gonna go in with a second concealer that's about 2 to 3 shades lighter than your complexion. So this one that I just put on was pretty close to my complexion. This is significantly lighter. This is that drugstore concealer I used in my last video. I think it was like $11. So same thing here. I'm just gonna add a dot right to the center under my eye. Again, we're not applying product too close to the lash line, especially getting into your late 30s, 40s. This area becomes much more delicate and more prone to settling into fine lines, looking cakier. So we're really just gonna take it easy with product directly under the lash line and focus that brightness a little lower. So with the same brush, I'm gonna take this and just tap on that concealer, kind of the same way I did with the first concealer, and just start to spread it out. I'm gonna demonstrate a more dramatic brightening effect on this side. I just want you to get a feel for a very natural brightening effect. So right now, as I'm looking in the mirror, I see hydration, I see movement, I see real skin. I'm gonna wait on finishing up with powder once I finish this side. So you might be wondering, if I have dark circles, how do I apply my concealer? For dark circles, you want to start with something that is a salmon or peach tone. This is by LA Girl. It's their Pro Conceal in the shade Peach. If you have a deeper complexion, you're gonna wanna go with something more of a deep salmon tone, something more orange. So again, if you have darkness, so I have a little bit of darkness out here. I'll apply here. I don't have much darkness here, but I'll apply just to demonstrate. But here I have noticeable darkness. So I'm gonna apply that corrector. And now just with my finger, I'm gonna blend this out. And what this is gonna do is it's gonna neutralize darkness before your concealer goes on. So wherever you have darkness, add a small amount of the corrector first. You don't want to add too much. A little bit will go a long way. All you want to do is to neutralize. You're not covering, you're neutralizing. And by the way, you don't need to spend a ton of money on a corrector. These are very affordable. So once you neutralize that darkness, again, you're going to go in with your natural shade concealer first. Same deal, we're going to apply this far from the lash line and over the area where we neutralize the darkness. And here's a trick you can use if you need extra help in the hydration department. Take your hydrating spray and spray your brush before you start blending out. I love to use this little hack, especially when I feel like my concealer looks a little dry or my under eyes are feeling dry. So again, I'm just tapping my brush over the concealer to help it blend. And with whatever's left on the brush, just tapering it up toward the lash line. I'm trying to show you like 6 different concealer looks in one video. I only have 2 eyes, but I'm gonna show you all of them. This is another one of those correctors. This is their cool pink shade. I don't use this as a corrector. I actually use this as a brightener. Just squeeze up a little bit of product. And I'm gonna do the same thing I did with that lighter concealer, except this, you can see, is quite a bit brighter. So again, taking my brush, I'm gonna start focusing on the center of my face under my eye and blend that out. So this is gonna bring extreme brightness to the center of my face. This Hourglass brush, by the way, is ideal for doing this kind of blending work. So do you see I layered 3 different products on this side? A color corrector, a concealer, and a brightener. Do you see how bright that under eye is? You'll see it all come together once I add the blush too. So if you're using the right technique, you can really layer on 2 or 3 different concealers or correctors and still end up with a very natural and youthful look. If you have dark circles and you go in with something this light just by itself, it's gonna look gray, kind of like an ash tone. You don't want that. You want everything to be neutral first so that you get the true color payoff. You know how I feel about powder. It's not my favorite product, but it is necessary in the correct capacity. The one I've been loving is by McGrath. This is the Skin Fetish Blurring Powder. So I'm gonna take my brush and grab a little. It's very, very soft. And I'm just gonna start pressing that under my eyes. I don't typically use a poof for setting makeup. I just find it to be way too heavy and everything becomes very 2-dimensional. So I prefer using a brush always. You just have much more control. Again, I'm pressing that in, especially right under the lash line where it tends to settle into the line. And then with whatever's left on the brush, I don't grab more product. I just kind of hit the rest of my face wherever there's a little bit of shine. One thing I should note before I move on to the blush, if you want to use like a liquid or cream blush, definitely apply that before you do the powder. You don't want to add a liquid product or a cream product over powder if you're going for a natural look. If you're going for full glam, it's not a big deal. I'm taking this very pink blush from Dior, bouncing that brush over the highest point of my cheek and then start to blend out. So this pink is going to blend with the white of that powder, creating a really nice pink under eye. And again on the other side, not being afraid to get close to the lash line. This is a step I don't skip these days. I'm so happy I got my hands on this spray. This actually came to me through a partnership. They wanted to partner and I was like, sure, let me try it. Send it over, let me see if I like it. And I have not stopped using it ever since. So I just close my eyes and get that microfine mist. You could have the driest, cakiest makeup and spray this over it and it'll just bring it back to life. Let me give you a close-up look here. You know what I forgot to add is a little bit of bronzer. This is the Baked Bronzer from Dibs. It's very light. This is not gonna change much about the look, just a little extra glow and dimension. Obviously nothing in the under eyes. I just feel like I could use a little more color. And let me finish with a little lip too, just to pull everything together. This is also by Dibs, a very high shine gloss. If you have any more questions about concealer, any of the techniques I used, any products I used, please leave them in the comments. I want you to get really comfortable with concealer and you'll start to see that it's not hard at all to get the concealer look you want and still make it look natural. I'll see you next time.